Well, good morning from Alaska. This is Scott Thompson with Scott Art CNC, and I just think about that this morning. That's what kind of day it is. I need more coffee kind of a day. I'm going to do a little really quick class on how to set up tool paths for some of the files and stuff I sell. I get an awful lot of guys pretty new trying to figure out how to make a tool paths work. And I got a guy called up this morning, said he had a problem with a file and it was going to take him 60 hours to carve it. And I know I'm carving it in about an hour. So I'm going to run through that and show you some of the cheats I use. So real quick video. So here's my Etsy store. I'll just do my commercial here and get it out of the way pretty early this morning. I think here's what we're gonna focus on is this trying to help this guy with this little turtle charcuterie board. So stand by and I'll open up a screen and I'll explain to you how I tool pass something like that. Okay, hold on. So let's share my Aspire screen there. Hopefully you guys can see a handsome little turtle right now. So this is the file we're trying to carve, and there's a couple ways to do it, and you guys all have different ways of doing it. I'm just going to show you when I'll do 6 of these at a time when I do them. So I want them to be reasonably quick carves, and I want to be able to knock them out with the least number of tools I can use when I do it. So I'll show you a bit about, let's see here. So here's how I set up the vectors on a carve like this. So there's 3 different vectors involved here. I'm going to shut this off so you can see the vectors easy. One of them is just the outline of the charcuterie board itself. And then I also create another, what I call a loose vector around the turtle or around the 3D object. So if you look at how that works, I have the vector just far enough. I could actually get the exact vector from the turtle and it would go right into these lines in here. But the catch is I'm going to use, and I'll show you, there's a 1/2 inch end mill, and I'll use a 1/2 inch end mill to do both the roughing cut and the finish cut on everything outside the turtle. And it wouldn't fit in here. And what you'd end up with is all this uncarved if I used with the process I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to show you how the tools paths work on this. We'll move this out of the way you can see it. So what I'm going to do first, let's create some tools. We'll pull down the tool path menu over here. And the first thing I'm going to create is a roughing tool path. I'm going to say create a roughing tool path, and it's going to, I'm going to use a 1/2 inch end mill to do that on this. And I'm going to use this outside vector to do it. And I'm going to click on that and I'm going to say calculate. And it goes through its gyrations, and I've got to do some upgrades on my thing. So let's take a look and see how that works, what that looks like. So I say reset and preview all tool paths. Well, you could see what it does. That didn't work. Yeah, I'm an expert. Preview all tool paths. We'll just let it run through that one, and I won't try to grab to. So you can see what it's done is it's created a real rough version of the board. So if we go back and look at that on that tool path, here's my 1/2 inch end mill. Let's take a look at how it's all set up. Right now I have it set up. It's cutting 0.155 deep, and it's 40% step over. So 40% step over is what makes it go fast. It's cutting almost half the width of that blade, and I have it running at 100 inches per minute. I have it set up on a raster, and I have it to avoid machined areas where it already is at. So it cuts pretty darn quick when you do that. So let's say okay on that. So the next thing we want to create, let's create a finish tool path. Well, I want 2 finish tool paths for this particular piece. I want one that does everything outside of the turtle. And I'm going to use that same, again, I want to minimize how many bits I use. So I'm going to click on that. And again, click on this. I'm going to go into my create toolpaths, and I'm going to say, I'm going to close that. And I want to create a finishing toolpath. And you can see it's already got a quarter, and these are bits I usually use. So I'm going to remove those. And I'm going to tell it, I'm going to select the same bit again, an end mill, 1/2 inch. But I'm going to edit that a little bit. And I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to say, I want this to have, let's go down to like 14 or 15% step over. So not nearly as much. It's an offset again. I'm going to do it in raster just so you can see it. And I can say, okay, let's move it to raster. And we'll say calculate. And it goes about calculating. You can see here, it has now done everything around the outside of that turtle, but not the turtle. So again, now if I run my reset preview all toolpaths, it runs through that pretty quick. And you can see that it leaves, this board is now done other than sanding. And it was very fast. We'll look at the time of these here in a few minutes. But so let's make there's 2 more toolpaths left to finish this. So we'll go back in here and we're going to click on this vector right here. Now, when I created this vector, I did a real loose drawing around the outside of it. And then I used the original vector to get really close on these edges because I don't want to carve over the edge of it. I'll click on the vector again, and this turtle vector and the model. And I'll say, I want to create, and of course, I'm already in a finishing tool mode. So I'm going to say, we want to create a finishing tool path. We want to remove that, and we're going to select an 1/8 inch ball nose. And we're going to say calculate. And reset preview all tool paths. So now it's going to go through and it's going to do the roughing, and you can see it did the finishing tool path, but the finishing tool path was only inside that area there. And then the very last one I would create would be this. We'll close that, and we're going to create a profile tool path. This particular material was 1.5 inches, so I'm going to cut it 1.55 inches. Oh, come on, speak to me. 5 inches deep. We're going to use, let's use a 1/4 inch end mill. I'm going to make 8 passes. And now we should be able to go back to that and say calculate. It tells me it's going to cut all the way through, and I know it is. It's going to go down a little bit into my surfacing board, and then I can come back here and say reset review all toolpaths, and it'll run through this. And you see it did the roughing one, and then it did the finishing carve here with a 1/2 inch, the second finishing carve, and now it's cut the whole thing out. So let's just take a look at that for a minute and look at the timing of this. So this is, and I have this tuned in a little bit, so it's reasonably close to what it's going to take. It says total machining time about 1 hour and 8. And I can tell you on my Avid that this particular carve takes, with setup and everything else, about 1 hour and 15 minutes with some tool changes. So this is pretty close. That turtle finishing tool carve to actually do the tiny little detail is 13 minutes and 14 minutes. But just for a counterpoint to this, let's shut these off for a minute. Let's go back. We'll close this out. Back to this, and now let's do one more. Want to create another finishing tool path. I'm going to first off, I'm going to close this. I want to turn these all off for a minute so I can get to my vectors again. So I'm going to click on this vector, and I'm going to click on the whole board, and come back and say, now create a toolpath for the whole board, and let's do the whole thing with an 1/8 inch bit. Ready, go. And it's going to calculate that, and it'll do a great job. It'll carve the whole board. But let's come up here and take a look at what that does to the time. I haven't looked at this yet, so I might be embarrassed. But that's the only one. So this is coming back and saying it would carve the entire board in an hour and 4 minutes. And the other way of doing it would do it in about an hour and 4 minutes. So maybe it didn't save any time. I would tell you that I think it saved it, that this is probably wrong right here from my experience. But so that's the problem with doing live videos. Sometimes it doesn't look great on things. But anyway, that's how I would set up tool pathing. You can do it either way, but if it saves you some time on some of these carves like this, then use those things and have fun with it. And if you get a chance to come through Alaska, stop by our art gallery up on the Parks Highway in beautiful Willow, Alaska. And if not, stop by Scott Art CNC and say hi there. And if you got questions, let me know. I'll show you what's going on outside. It's Valentine's Day. I don't know if you can see that. That's the view out the window right now. There's we have about 5 feet of snow in the yard. And that's why I'm inside here doing videos. So anyway, that was all fun, and thanks for watching. Send me your questions.